vërteta është që algoritmi ka një rol jashtëzakonisht të madh në përcaktimin e koloritit të jetës tonë. Për sa kohë ne e kemi jetën të lidhur me botën virtuale në ekranin e telefonit, algoritmi ka impakt të jashtëzakonshëm në amplifikimin e të gjitha atyre nxitjeve që vinë në formën e videove të manipuluara, që vinë në formën e lajmeve të gënjeshtërta.
Because the boundary between online and offline is getting thinner and thinner. And the values we cherish offline should also be protected online. And this is even more important in this new era of generative AI.
This is one of the greatest paradoxes of our time. As the information space has evolved, truth is vanishing. Foreign interference and information manipulation, FIMI, is death to democracy by thousand cuts.
The increasing level of coordinated algorithmic manipulation we are currently witnessing across our shared continent is a growing threat.
We see the gun, we know what it's made of, and we know how it fires. But this is cognitive war. We must also shoot back.
The European Union understands this, and we are rising to the challenge.
Furthermore, the Commission will set up the European Centre for Democratic Resilience, which will facilitate information sharing and support operational cooperation and capacity building to withstand evolving threats.
The Democracy Shield places the candidate countries and potential candidates within the remit of actions foreseen for member states, separately from the rest of international partners. So the candidates and potential candidates have already a special status in this. Enlargement partners bring valuable expertise on first hand that can contribute to the Union's own preparedness and resilience. So we have to get away from this scheme that it is us telling them what they have to do. It is also us learning from them what they are experiencing.
Because Europe is safer when we work together.
Prime Minister, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, good morning and a warm welcome to everyone, to all our guests who have traveled from abroad to be with us today, and especially to our panelists who are joining remotely despite the very undue hour for them. As we saw in the short video, no one needs convincing anymore, and everyone has been warned. What we see and experience every day is not simply something new. It is a seismic transformation unfolding before our eyes. In this new reality, in a rapidly changing world, the defense of democracy no longer stops at physical borders. It happens not only in the public debate, as it has always been, but extends more and more in the digital space. In a democracy, information has always been a public good. Over years, we noticed it has transformed into a strategic terrain. Now, it has become the place where trust is tested, democracy choices are shaped, and where, most importantly, influence is increasingly exercised. This transformation is one of the defining challenges of our time. Foreign information manipulation and interference, otherwise known as FIMI, is not simply a matter of competing narratives. It is increasingly used as a calculated instrument of hybrid pressure designed to erode trust, exploit social divisions, weaponize algorithms, amplify grievances, and fracture the understanding of reality. Its objective is not always only to convince us of one particular narrative. Many times it is, of course. But most often, the objective is more insidious: to make citizens doubt everything, to undermine confidence in institutions, in independent media, and ultimately in the democracy itself. In a world increasingly dominated by social media and transformed by the rapid and largely unregulated development of artificial intelligence, no country is immune to these threats. For Albania, this discussion comes at a particularly important moment. We see a direct correlation. As we enter the home stretch of our European Union accession negotiations, we are more and more exposed to hostile influence and manipulation by those who do not share our choices, our values, and our strategic direction. This is no time for hesitation. It is time to see clearly, not as a passive beneficiary of any outside protection, but as a contributor to the common and joint efforts. Because resilience cannot be outsourced, and it cannot be built by governments alone. It requires cooperation between governments and parliaments, independent media and civil society, academia and technology experts, and ultimately, the most important, citizens themselves. It also requires international cooperation. The experience of countries that have faced these threats directly, studied them, exposed them, and developed tools to counter them must become part of a common response. This is precisely why today's gathering matters. What we hope to achieve today is not simply to identify the problem, but to exchange experiences, to seek practical solutions and find the best ways to deal with these new and threatening challenges. We in Albania know better than most the price of freedom because we have experienced its absence. We will therefore spare nothing to defend our hard-won democratic values. But we also understand that freedom is not something to be taken for granted, misused or wasted. It carries responsibilities, and its strength depends on the way we exercise it, with respect for truth, for others, and for the democratic institutions that make it possible. This means protecting the information space where citizens form opinions, make choices, and exercise their democratic rights. Charting the course requires understanding, awareness, political vision, determination, and leadership in order to build resilience and sustainability. Prime Minister Rama, this is precisely why your voice is important in this conversation, and I give you the floor.
Thank you so much for being here, and especially heartfelt thank you to all of them who traveled to be here with us. Usually when people open conferences like this, protocol demands a standard line. It is a great pleasure and a distinct honor to welcome you all to Tirana. I will not start that way today, not because you are not welcome, you are very warmly so, but because we are not gathered here for a polite exchange of diplomatic pleasantries. We are here because of a rather uncomfortable convergence of the moment we live in. The geography we inhabit and the silent, corrosive pressure being applied to our democratic institutions every single day. At first glance, this conference is about algorithms, digital platforms, and information ecosystems. In reality, I believe it is about something much more fundamental we are obliged to deal with when we address these topics. Because it is about democracy, it is about public trust, and ultimately, it is about whether free societies possess the strategic clarity to defend the open spaces they build. For centuries and millennia, nations defended their sovereignty, people defended their sovereignty, tribes defended their sovereignty by guarding physical borders. Today, we have to defend something invisible, yet every bit as vital. The space where our citizens form opinions, exercise judgment, and make their own free choices. the geography of national security has fundamentally changed. Power is no longer measured solely by the size of armies or the reach of traditional military hardware. And this is something I obsessively go back to in every conversation we have with our allies and partners when it comes to defense spending, when it comes to ramping up our military, when it comes to making our armies stronger by the day. Because power is increasingly measured also by something else, the ability to alter perception, weaponize societal divisions, and erode trust in democratic institutions. And by the way, history has taught us something very clear about what we have to deal with today. More than 3,000 years ago, not far from here, where we meet today, Homer told the story of Troy. Troy did not fall because it has a weak army. Troy did not fall because its walls were too weak to withstand the siege. Troy did not fall because it has no border security. It fell because the threat entered disguised as something harmless. The Trojan horse, and by the way, this is the name of a virus, remains history's ultimate lesson. The greatest danger is rarely the one storming your gates. It is more and more the one invited inside because it looks harmless. It is the one we praise in the name of freedom of opinions. It is the one we protect in the name of the freedom of speech. It is the one that we are always reluctant to deal with properly, even when it shows its true colors. Because for us, it is a matter of democracy and a matter of freedom. And so we have come to a moment when we have completely lost it by accepting the freedom of reach as an extension of the freedom of speech. And foreign information manipulation and interference never arrives wearing a uniform. It arrives as a daily content, as outrage, as a viral trend, as a deepfake video of a celebrity or a politician, as a link forwarded in WhatsApp group by our uncle who genuinely believes he's sharing some disturbing truth. It speaks our native language, it exploits our anxieties, and targets exactly our open debates. And that is precisely why it is so effective and why we look so doomed to fail in front of it. Today, manipulation travels at the speed of an algorithm powered by artificial intelligence and deployed at big scale. So, bottom line is you no longer need an army to destabilize a country. And look what is happening across Europe today. Attacks do not necessarily begin with anyone crossing physical borders. They begin with silent strikes against data, digital infrastructure, public perception. When we are awake, when we are asleep. Just a few weeks ago, a neighboring country, let's say not far from here, not exactly neighbor, Romania, suffered a massive cyber attack that froze their entire national land registry system. Citizens could not access titles, economic transactions ground to a halt, and public services were paralyzed. And only months prior to it, that same nation faced an unprecedented cognitive assault aimed at distorting its democratic election through coordinated digital manipulation. And these are not isolated phenomena. A cyber attack on a state database and a coordinated influence campaign against an election come from the exact same playbook. We know something about it when it comes to cyber attack. And cybersecurity protects our servers and critical infrastructure. And today I am very proud to say that because of having been very aggressively attacked, we have responded by building one of the strongest cyber defenses in Europe today, relying on a new generation of defense based on artificial intelligence. But cybersecurity alone is not enough, because if we protect infrastructure of our own digital nervous system of the state, the minds of our citizens remain unprotected, vulnerable to systematic manipulation every time they unlock their phones. And this brings me here directly to where we sit today. The thing with democracy is that democracy is about cracks in the open. Democracy, in its essence, it's not about hiding cracks, it's about dealing with cracks and dealing openly. And exactly this openness is vulnerability towards the enemies of democracy that find at a crack the path to get in, like the Trojan horse. And you are very well aware, I guess, about the so-called Flamingo Revolution. It's a stunning example of how a crack that, of course, was not created by our enemies became a path to get in and to exploit it with a very large-scale operation of trolls and avatars. So, as we advance decisively through the final stage of our European Union accession negotiations, it is fundamental to strengthen our resilience against hybrid threats, which is not a bureaucratic exercise, but it is a very important step towards building a resilient society while not undermining its own democratic values and its own democratic way of living. So to not take more of your time. I just want to bring you all to the map where all the countries that are in this same process of getting closer to the EU and aiming to become EU members are. So from the Western Balkans to Ukraine, Moldova, Georgia. The closer a country gets to the European Union, the harder foreign actors strike through this way of sneaking inside and attacking. So we are the front line, and we experience hybrid pressure and targeted disinformation campaign directly as we speak. So we have to learn fast, to adapt fast, and through that frontline experience to offer practical value to Europe's collective security. My dear friends, history will probably remember us not only as those who witnessed the birth and the rise of artificial intelligence, but as a generation that had to decide whether truth could remain stronger than manipulation in a digital world. And this is a very big dilemma because the choice is very, very complex. We are democracies. We want to remain democracies. But at the same time, democracies offer space quite generously also for their enemies. And this is the question. And this is the dilemma. And this is the hard choice we have to make. So how we defend our information space, not by curtailing liberty, but by reinforcing it, not by fearing technological progress, but by anchoring in it democratic values, not by retreating into digital isolation, but by building open, critical, and confident societies. So, I don't know in your countries, in Albania we have a say, I don't know if it is authentic or it's copied by some neighbors. We have a long argument about it, who was the first and who came next, but I'm just sharing it with you. When the lie has made the tour of the globe, the truth is still putting up its pants. This was true before this era. Now, imagine how many tours of the globe the lie can do while the truth is putting up its pants. So I don't want to be pessimistic, but I'm not very optimistic for as long as we will not make the clear difference and will not make the clear cut between freedom of speech and freedom of reach. The right to reach to everyone by telling the most outrageous nonsense is not the right to speak freely, it's something else. How to deal with it? I don't know. This is why we have tried to invite some very bright and very well informed people to share with us their knowledge and to try and learn from them how to navigate in these very, very turbulent waters. So much thank you for your patience, and I very much wish I was not boring, and I look forward to get the full report of what will be said and how we can make the best use out of it, and we will do. We'll do it because we need it desperately. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister, for sharing candidly and openly your thoughts. So I invite our colleagues for the first panel and the moderator as well. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. At the outset, I would like to thank first the keynotes, the Prime Minister, the Minister, and of course the Foreign Affairs of Albania for inviting us to be part of this quite important conference. My name is Miroslav Sazdowski. I come from the European Center of Excellence for Countering Hybrid Threats in Finland. But regardless, I come from the region. I'm from North Macedonia. I can see my ambassador here, which is kind of reassuring. And we would like to explain a little bit, dissect how actually FIMI works. That's something we'll try to do with my distinguished panelists on this panel. I will give just a brief introduction of how we in the European Center of Excellence actually recognize what hybrid threats are, how to distinguish them from other malign activities, which I believe will give a context for the other panelists. It's not something completely new. It's actually reiterating on what we usually provide as a knowledge. And I can see that in the previous speeches with the Minister and the Prime Minister, there are a lot of things which can be seen being repeated. So, first, it's the focus is on the foreign information manipulation and interference, which is something that has been contemporarily used very much in order to influence the decision-making process in the democratic societies. Now, this is the key element that we are constantly emphasizing, which make hybrid attacks, hybrid activities differ from other type of malign activities that interfere with democratic processes, destabilize society. Now, this is the key element which gives a clear perspective of how we understand hybrid threats. Hybrid threats are attacking the democratic way of living. So this is the basic elements which differs them from the other. So what turns an action into a hybrid threat? It is when a hostile actor, you need to have an actor, outside actor, deliberately combines and synchronizes action, so it's a campaign, not only one action, it's a part of a campaign, specifically targeting the systematic vulnerabilities in democratic society. So system is attacked, vulnerabilities are being used, and only democratic societies are being attacked. This is, since we are talking about the attack on the whole society, and you have heard the word whole of society approach, that we need to completely target while countering hybrid threats, building resilience for the whole society. Well, that's why in the European Center of Excellence, we had done a sort of mapping of the society in order to understand what and how are hybrid threats attacking actually the democratic societies. And you can see we have three spaces. It's the governing space, which is one part of society. You don't read it there, but that says services. So this is the services of the country, which is infrastructure, economy space, services for the citizens, for the country. And the civic space, where you can find the social, cultural, political influence, which is part of what FIMI actually penetrates mostly through, and disinformation.